welcome Gabriele, who's going to talk about how to make things accessible.
Okay, accessibility. What is accessibility? Well, okay. Talk. Okay, web accessibility means that websites, software, and technology has to be designed for also for the people with disability, not only physical but also social and economic. Okay, first actor in the web accessibility is the screen reader. Screen reader are a set of assistive technology that can help people visually impaired, illiterated, or with learning disabilities. Okay, the World Wide Web Consortium has worked on accessibility and has created these two things. WAE is a Web Accessibility Initiative. It's a team that develops standard and support material for developers for implement accessibility in their code bases. First work of the Web Accessibility Initiative was the ARIA attribute, a set of HTML attribute that defines a way to make web content more readable from the screen reader. Okay, ARIA attributes are divided in roles, properties, and states. Okay, WCAG are a set of guidelines for making web content more accessible. Okay. WCAG are divided in 4 layers. There are the principle. For every principle, there are some guidelines. And for every guideline, there are the success criteria and the sufficient and advisory techniques. Okay. There are the 4 principles of web content accessibility guidelines. The principles are perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. Let's see the guideline for each other. Okay. For the perceivable principle, WCAG defines guideline for alternative for non-text content, alternative for live streaming, audio and video, for the content orientation and the independence from the platform, and guidelines about colors, audio control, contrast, and test size. Okay. For the operable principle, there are specifications about keyboard shortcuts, timed content, for animation and color flashes, for navigability, and for the input modalities. This is simple. The understandable principle has only 3 guidelines about readability, predictability, and input assistance. For the robust principle is one guideline about the compatibility. Okay. Let's see some tricks for quickly refactor our code bases. First rule, do you know the difference between these two structures? Okay, first rule is use semantic tags in HTML. Simple. Other tricks could be alternative for alternative text for images, alternative text for audio and video content, and keyboard navigation with the role and tab index attribute. Okay, if you want to improve your accessibility of your website, you can use this tool that I show you. This is a platform of W3C that compiles for you accessibility reports and send via email. Okay. This is a checklist filterable for with all the tasks for have a good accessible web application. This is a native tool for check the contrast of the page. This is another tool, but online, where you put your foreground color, your application background color, and it finds for you every better contrast than yours with similar color. Okay. DynoMapper is another cloud service for web accessibility report, but is pay. Wave is a free alternative to DynoMapper. Let's see, Wave is a very good tool. FOSDEM.org. It shows a preview of the website with warnings where are things with problems. So FOSDEM website has a bit color contrast problem. Okay, and WebInt is another tool for check the best practice on your application, and also has the accessibility section. WebInt is also available as a web extension, so you can use is like Google Lighthouse, you know. Ok, perfetto. And it compiles a report about accessibility. There are no issues. It's a black page with an image. There are no issues here. Okay. For check your accessibility, you can use the dev tools of your browser. Dev tools for accessibility are included in Firefox and are available as an extension for Chrome. Okay. This is a GitHub collection that collects every resource about web accessibility available on GitHub. Okay, I finished.
That was nice. Thank you for catching up. Do you have questions? We have time for questions.
Question?
Can you go back to the slides right at the beginning where you're explaining all the different parts?
Difference?
He wants the first slide or the second slide, and then he asks the questions about that.
Yeah, wait. Three to right, sorry.
Yeah?
And the one with one line.
Ah.
Yeah, starting with name. Can you explain what name, role, value is?
Can you explain what name rule value is?
Name role for the input control and for the HTML elements. Okay? Area role and input name. Okay, it's not clear, yeah. Input name, input value. Okay. Other question?
Hi. How much of these like suggestions would be applicable to a desktop application, say written in Qt? Would this be a good start, or do you have other?
For develop a desktop application?
Yes.
I'm not a desktop application developer, so, but you can use the same guideline. adapted, but WCAG could be, the principle and the guidelines could be used also for desktop application.
Hi, thank you for your talk. My question would be like, with developing, I'm working on a web-based application, and what would be your suggestion to have an automated, way of checking accessibility when developing a web-based application? I know there are solutions we're using
automated?
Axe at the moment for React components. But just as a web application, I'm pretty sure there are some good tools for that. Thank you.
Good question. I don't know if there are automatic tester, but I use an ESLint plugin that expressively for accessibility. And I use that, and so I can build application accessible application in a build time. Okay.
Accessibility-wise, what framework from, I don't know, either to like React, Angular, or on the CSS side, which frameworks do you advise, and accessibility-wise, which one are the ones that kind of are more aware
accessibility
of this?
is not related to any framework. You can use the one you want.
No, sure, but sometimes a lot of frameworks, they provide a lot of widgets and components that they have accessibility issues. If I get a component with a lot of buttons, I mean...
Yeah.
So do you think in the scope of frameworks, which one is the one that is more accessibility aware? Is in the community?
Okay. I don't know, but I use React for work, and it does very good, it has no issues with accessibility. I use React and ESLint with the accessibility plugin.
What could you give us an example of social and economic disabilities?
People illiterated, so they can't read they can read text and can use a screen reader for understand the content.
I'm going to step in. Hi. I have a talk on accessibility later on, but more on the social part. And I would add that the criteria for this is that in many countries, internet is extremely expensive. Like for 35 years, you get around max 1 gigabyte. And many will not be able to load your page. There is a really good talk by a friend of mine that I would recommend, Stefan. He's literally comparing the websites, how much they load and how much memory they will eat out of your internet connection. Besides the price money-wise, the accessibility to a good connection is also limited in many countries. These two, like exactly how much internet costs outside, we are like in Europe, I would say, outside Europe and maybe even USA. Even if in USA you get max 10 gigabytes for $35, which for me is extremely expensive for what we paid here. And again, accessibility to, well, access to a good connection where you can load stuff, not 2G or even less than that.
Any other questions?
Is there any way to measure if somebody is trying to use, let's say, a screen reader on my site? For me as a developer to see if that's actually like, if somebody is trying to do that.
Okay. I don't know if there is a way, but you have to implement accessibility. Before thinking of screen reader. You have to implement an accessible code base, and you don't have problem with screen reader.
More questions? No? So thank you, Gabriel.